You know that feeling when a song hits you so deep it stops time? When the melody wraps around your soul and suddenly you're 7 years old again, hearing magic for the first time? That's what Caravan of Love does to me. Every single time. But here's the twist that'll blow your mind. The man who wrote that masterpiece, the architect behind some of the most sampled music in hip hop history, died a few months ago and most of the world didn't even notice. Jasper. Remember that name because by the end of this story, you'll realize he's been the soundtrack to your entire life, hiding in plain sight. The genius who created the Isley Brothers sound, who gave Biggie his biggest hit, who handed Ice Cube a cultural anthem, who built the foundation for Aaliyah's legend. This is the man the industry forgot to pay, forgot to credit, and forgot to thank. And if you love uncovering the hidden architects of music history, don't forget to like and subscribe to Legends Underrated, because this story will change how you hear every classic song. December 30th, 1951, Cincinnati, Ohio. A baby boy enters the world as the youngest of 7 children, born into a home where music isn't just played, it's breathed like oxygen. His mother, Elizabeth, sits at the piano daily, her fingers dancing across ivory keys while melodies float through the house like invisible spirits. Just down the street, his uncle holds the prestigious position of first violinist for the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. The boy doesn't know it yet, but he's been dropped into a sonic incubator designed by fate itself. By age 7, little Jasper does something that makes his mother's hands freeze mid-chord. He sits at that same piano and recreates, note for perfect note, the songs bleeding from the radio, not by reading music, not by lessons, by pure, undiluted instinct. His mother watches her baby boy channel Ray Charles, mimic Sam Cooke, embody Jackie Wilson, all without understanding what he's doing. It's not talent, it's something rarer. It's prophecy wrapped in childhood innocence. But here's where destiny gets specific. On that same Cincinnati street, just a few houses down, 3 older brothers are already making waves. Rudolph, Ronald, and O'Kelly Isley, the Isley Brothers, are carving their names into music history with shout and twist and shout. And Chris, this piano prodigy toddler, is 3 years old when he first meets the family that will define and complicate his entire existence. The Isley brothers aren't just neighbors, they're about to become family in the most literal sense. Chris's big sister, Elaine, falls in love with Rudolph Isley, and when they marry, the invisible threads tighten. Suddenly, Chris isn't just the kid down the street. He's the brother-in-law, the family connection, the boy with golden ears who spends summers in Teaneck, New Jersey, watching his new extended family build an empire. During those summer visits, something unexpected happens. Chris grows closer to the younger Isleys, Marvin and Ernie, because they're near his age, because they speak the same language of possibility. They form the Jasmine Trio when Chris hits his teens. Chris on piano, Ernie on drums, Marvin on bass, 3 kids playing local churches and high school events, covering radio hits, dreaming bigger than their neighborhood permits. Nobody knows they're rehearsing for history. At 15 years old, Jasper isn't thinking about legacy. He's thinking about chord progressions and whether his new composition is good enough. The older Isley brothers invite the Jasmine Trio to play on their 7th album, then their 9th. It's 1969, 1971. Chris is still a teenager, but his fingers are already reshaping their sound. Then comes 1972, and everything shifts. The Isleys' 10th album, Brother, 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 features Chris's first original composition, Love Put Me on the Corner. It's just one song, but it's a door cracking open, light spilling through. After graduating high school, Chris doesn't take the easy path. He auditions for Juilliard in New York City and gets in. Juilliard, where musical geniuses go to sharpen genius into surgical precision. He loves it, but something's missing. Juilliard teaches classical composition, jazz theory, the architecture of Mozart and Beethoven, but Chris craves more genres, more fusion, more everything. So he transfers to CW Post College, studies under legendary jazz pianist Billy Taylor, absorbs everything like sonic osmosis, and earns his Bachelor of Fine Arts in Music Composition. Armed with classical training, jazz sensibility, and R&B soul, Jasper becomes something the music industry has never seen. A hybrid creator who can write string arrangements, conduct sessions, play bass, guitar, keys, and sing the guide vocals that teach Ronald Isley how to perform the songs Chris birthed from nothing. The older Isleys, Ronald, Rudolph, and O'Kelly, make it official. The Jasmine Trio isn't a side project anymore. Chris, Ernie, and Marvin are now full members of the Isley Brothers. 3 plus 3 equals the 3 plus 3 album, and it's their first platinum record selling over 1 million copies. Picture this. Chris takes their 1964 song, Who's That Lady, and doesn't just remake it. He rebuilds it from the molecular level. He and Ernie transform it into a funk earthquake. Ernie's guitar screams like Jimi Hendrix reincarnated because Jimi actually played with the Isleys back in '64, and Ernie studied that style like scripture. They rename it That Lady, and it rockets to number 6 on the pop charts, number 2 on R&B, certified gold. Chris is barely in his 20s, and he's already redefining what the Isley Brothers can be. Then comes the Cascade. Fight the Power in 1975, number 1 R&B, top 5 pop, the song that inspires Public Enemy to build a revolution. For the Love of You, the ballad that still plays at family cookouts, at weddings, in the quiet moments when people remember what love felt like when it was new. Whitney Houston covers it in 1987 and gets a Grammy nomination. Master Ace samples it. Bone Thugs and Harmony samples it. Beyoncé remakes it with Ronald Isley in 2002 because even Beyoncé's mother couldn't stop playing it. But here's the part that'll make your chest tight. When you look at the album credits, you see 6 names. All 6 Isley Brothers listed as writers, producers, contributors, democracy on paper. But Chris knows the truth, and years later, he'll say it out loud. It was really just him and Ernie creating everything. The older brothers didn't play instruments. They didn't write melodies. They didn't arrange strings or mix tracks. Chris did all of that. He'd compose the song, play every part, lay down the vocals to show Ronald how it should sound. Then Ronald would come in and recreate Chris's exact cadence, his phrasing, his emotional tone. Chris was the architect, the engineer, and the foundation, but the credits said otherwise. Stories like these are why I built Legends Underrated, so make sure to subscribe for more untold truths about the artists who built the culture from the shadows. At Your Best, You Are Love, in 1976, written for the Isleys' mother Sally, never released as a single, but radio loved it anyway, and it became a hit. Aaliyah hears it as a kid, tells Ronald Isley she's obsessed, and in 1994, she makes it an eternal classic. Footsteps in the Dark in 1977, the song Ice Cube samples for It Was a Good Day, his first number 1 rap hit. Justin Bieber samples it for Bad Day. The list keeps growing. By 1983, the Isley Brothers are unstoppable. Their 22nd album, Between the Sheets, hits number 1, goes platinum, defines an era. The title track, written and produced by Jasper, peaks at number 3 on R&B charts, and it only misses number 1 because Michael Jackson's Billie Jean is spending 9 consecutive weeks in the top spot. Nobody beats Michael in 1983, but Between the Sheets doesn't need a number 1 spot to become immortal. The notorious B.I.G. samples it for Big Papa. A Tribe Called Quest flips it. Bone Thugs and Harmony uses it. Naughty by Nature, Keith Murray, Nas. Everyone wants a piece of Jasper's magic. Another song from that album, Choosy Lover, gets the same treatment. Nas samples it for the Street Dreams remix with R. Kelly, Boys 2. Men uses it. The samples stack so high, they become their own genre. But while Chris is creating billion-dollar music, the business side is rotting from the inside. The first crack appears after the 1980 album Go All the Way. The single Don't Say Goodnight, It's Time for Love, written by Chris, hits number 1 R&B. The album goes platinum. Everything looks golden on the surface, but backstage, the foundation is crumbling. Chris starts paying attention to the money, to the contracts, to the business mechanics he'd been too young and too trusting to question before. He realizes something horrifying. He's not being paid what he's worth, not even close. The older Isleys, the ones who don't write, don't produce, don't arrange, are taking equal or larger shares while Chris does the heavy lifting. Then the older brothers drop a bomb. They have tax problems. Serious IRS issues. They want to file for bankruptcy and break the CBS Records contract. Chris, Ernie, and Marvin don't have those tax problems. They don't want bankruptcy. They want to keep making music. The group fractures. They agree to split. Chris, Ernie, and Marvin form their own group, Isley, Jasper, Isley. The older brothers leave CBS and sign with Warner Brothers. But here's the petty, painful twist. The older Isleys tell the younger ones they can't use the name Isley Brothers anymore, can't use the name they helped build, can't use the legacy they created. So Isley Jasper Isley signs with CBS Records as a new entity. They released their debut album, Broadway's Closer to Sunset Boulevard, in 1984. It does decent numbers, but then the older Isleys do something unforgivable. They sue. They sue Chris, Ernie, Marvin, and CBS Records, trying to block the album from being released at all. Imagine that. The people Chris made wealthy, the career he resurrected with his genius, now using lawyers as weapons against him. The lawsuit fails, the album drops, but the message is clear. You're not family anymore, you're competition. In 1985, Isley Jasper Isley releases their second album, Caravan of Love. The title track, Chris's Baby, his spiritual masterpiece, hits #1 on R&B charts. He's playing guitar, building chord progressions, layering piano and drums, and then the lyrics pour out like prophecy. He's deep into the Bible at this point, thinking about Christ's return, about the lion lying with the lamb, about a child leading them to peace. Caravan of Love isn't just a song, it's a prayer set to funk. Chris sings lead for the first time on a #1 hit, and it feels like vindication. The British group House Martins covers it in 1986, and it hits #1 in the UK, becomes an international phenomenon. To this day, that song still gets radio play, still makes people stop and feel something holy. Then, out of nowhere, the floor disappears beneath Chris again. Ernie Isley quits. No warning, no conversation. His manager just tells Chris one day, Ernie's leaving the group. Chris is blindsided. They don't even get a phone call. No explanation, no closure, just gone. CBS Records doesn't want to continue with just Chris and Marvin. They only want Chris. So Marvin and Ernie crawl back to their older brothers, rejoin the Isley Brothers, and Chris is left standing alone in the wreckage. In interviews years later, Chris will say the saddest sentence, "I just wish they'd appreciated my contributions more. All they had to say was thanks. That's it. Not millions of dollars. Not public acknowledgement, just thanks, man." And he never got it. But Chris Jasper doesn't crumble. He builds his own empire. He starts Gold City Records through CBS, named after the New Jerusalem described in the Book of Revelations. He goes back to school and earns a Juris Doctorate degree from Concord University School of Law because he's determined to understand copyright law, music contracts, and the industry machinery that chewed him up. His wife Margie becomes a lawyer too, and he makes her vice president and general counsel of Gold City Records. Chris says if he'd understood the business earlier, you wouldn't have seen 6 names on those records. You would have seen the truth. In 1988, his debut solo album, Superbad, drops, and the title track hits #1 R&B. The song is about education, about empowerment, about kids staying away from drugs and bad influences. Chris is visiting schools, speaking to students, trying to be the mentor he never had. Over the next decades, he releases 16 solo albums, wins multiple Lifetime Achievement Awards from the German record critics, the National R&B Society, Soul Tracks, and in 2022, he's inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Finally, the recognition, finally, the respect. This twist shocked the world, and if you never want to miss stories of forgotten legends like this, subscribe to Legends Underrated today. But time doesn't stop for legends. The Isley Brothers start losing members one by one. Vernon Isley, killed by a car at age 11 in 1955. O'Kelly Isley, heart attack and cancer in 1986. Marvin Isley, the only brother Chris stayed in regular contact with, dies in 2010 from diabetes after both legs are amputated. Rudolph Isley, heart attack at home in 2023. And on February 23, 2025, Chris Jasper dies from cancer at age 73. He'd been diagnosed just 2 months earlier in December 2024. 2 months. That's all he got between diagnosis and the end. Ronald Isley releases a statement calling Chris a musical genius, a pioneer, the key to the sound that shaped generations. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame honors him as the man who defined soul and funk in the 70s and 80s. Beautiful words. But Chris had said what he needed years earlier. They never fully appreciated what went into creating those songs. Now only two remain, Ronald and Ernie Isley, two men carrying the weight of a legacy built by many. Chris Jasper's music lives on in every Biggie verse, every Ice Cube anthem, every Aaliyah tribute, every sample that introduced a new generation to genius they didn't know they were hearing. His 17 Grammy-eligible tracks, his platinum albums, his #1 hits, they're woven into the DNA of modern music so deeply that removing them would collapse entire genres. But here's the haunting question I'll leave you with. How many other architects are walking among us right now, invisible? How many creators are building empires for others while their own names fade into footnotes? Chris Jasper spent his life proving you can be both the foundation and forgotten, both essential and erased. His legacy isn't just in the music, it's in the warning. Protect your work, know your worth, demand your thanks before it's too late. What do you think? Are there other hidden geniuses we should uncover? Drop their names in the comments below, and if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Legends Underrated so we can keep shining light on the architect's history tried to forget. Rest in peace, Chris Jasper. The world finally knows your name.